Welcome to Changing Austin. I am your host, Stacy Armijo, and today I am joined by a special guest, Sarah Pitre. Welcome.
Thank you. Hello.
So I am excited you're here because Alamo Drafthouse is one of my very favorite brands, and a few things evoke Austin the way that Alamo Drafthouse does.
Yes.
So can you tell our audience what you do with Alamo?
Sure. So I've had a couple different jobs at Alamo, but my current position is the title is called head film buyer, which is kind of a strange title. Basically, it means that I head up the team that buys films from studios and programs them in the theaters. We're technically not buying them, we're renting them, I guess you could
Sure.
call it. But so our team decides which movies are going to play in which theaters based on the audience in the market and what we feel is on brand for Alamo. And then every week we have to negotiate with the studios to decide, what movies are coming in and what movies have to leave. So it's a constant, I would call it like bargaining process.
I've always wondered if that's sort of a set thing. You see movies come and go in theaters, and I've wondered if that's some kind of set schedule or if that's customized. It sounds like
So it's very dynamic. So it's completely based on the box office at the theater. And when we book a film from a major distributor like Universal or Warner Brothers, typically it's a 2-week commitment right off the bat. So we have to play the movie for 2 weeks, no matter what.
okay.
So if it bombs, we still have to play it. And then after that, it is weekly. It's based weekly on the box office for the weekend. So what was the rank in the building? How much did it do? Did it beat these other films? And if we're opening, say, 2 new movies in a theater and we only have 8 screens, that means 2 movies have to go.
Oof.
So it's, I did not know anything about how this worked. I would say even like 10 years ago,
Huh.
I had no idea. I started at Alamo doing repertory bookings. So I had started a series back then. It was called Girly Night, and it was focused on what I call slumber party classics. So movies like 10 Things I Hate About You and Mean Girls and Clueless. And so that was kind of my entry point into Alamo. And the repertory side is a lot different because most exhibitors don't do a lot of repertory. But Alamo, that's a huge part of the brand, is playing these beloved, whether they're a cult film or a classic film that people just want to see over and over again. That's a big part of our brand and honestly a big part of our business. So that's where I started, but now I'm firmly I only deal with new movies. So
Oh.
I don't deal with, I still watch my old movies that I love, but that's not my job anymore. So
It's Champagne Cinema? Is that what it's called?
it became Champagne Cinema. I don't know. I don't think we're currently really doing it. Our team, like a lot of companies, the pandemic really affected Alamo. And so the team was very much downsized, which, it sucks. But
Yeah.
we're still, we're still fighting the good fight for cinema and still, trying to make sure we're drawing in people who want to celebrate movies as much as we do.
So Alamo's story, the organization's, it's founded in Austin, and then it has a new ownership structure now. Can you give us a little bit of a history lesson on the company
Sure.
overall?
So the company was founded by Tim and Carrie League, and the original theater was on Colorado Street downtown, and they basically built that theater by hand.
Wow.
And it was and it was a 1-screen theater, and I started going there. I moved to Austin in the summer of 2004, and I had some friends who lived here and loved Alamo, and so we started going to, Colorado Street. They would do like Buffy sing-alongs and just a lot of they do Master Pancake, a lot of really fun, interesting events. And through that, it's a long story that I won't get into, but I met my now husband, Henry. He was working at Alamo, and he worked there for 20 years. So Henry was one of the first sort of film programmers at Alamo with Tim and Carrie. And then eventually Alamo started to expand. And then there was a period where Tim and Carrie actually sold the franchise rights to a different company. So then there were Alamos popping up that weren't actually connected to Tim and Carrie's company.
Okay.
Then all that came back together and we all reunited. And now we still have franchise operated locations, but it's all one company.
Oh.
And then, as you know, we last year were bought by Sony, which was, just an interesting twist. But it has been, I think it's been nice to know that we are owned by a company that's invested in theatrical and invested in the movie business. And it's also funny because we are owned by Sony, not Sony Pictures, which is basically Sony Pictures is another branch of Sony. So when I talk to my the sales team at Sony, it's like we kind of work for the same company, but we kind of don't. And we try to kind of keep those boundaries because we can't just play Sony movies. That would not work.
Sure.
But we have to play movies from everybody. So that was like very short, but now Alamo has 44 locations across the country. We have several in New York City, one in LA, 3 in the San Francisco area. So we've really, it's coast to coast now, which is, it's awesome. And as I said, the pandemic certainly affected us like every other movie theater company. But we are, I think, in a good position because we've made it our goal to try to celebrate all kinds of movies and all kinds of different fans. So we're not, like I said, we're not just focused on whatever the new Marvel movie is. We've built an audience who loves, independent horror and like awesome like Korean action movies. And again, these like cult classics. And we still run series, Terror Tuesday and Weird Wednesday. Those have been running since Alamo started. So those have been running for a very long time. And we just expanded that program into more theaters. So we're trying. We're trying to maintain cinema, and it's a struggle, because it's easy to stay at home and watch something on your TV. So we're trying to give people an opportunity, a reason to want to leave the couch and come to the theater.
Well, I know Alamo was the first place that I had a different movie experience than I had ever had for my whole life previous to go, because it was the first place that I was ever served food in a theater. That it's difficult to remember that is a relatively new concept, but Alamo was one of the innovators in that. Was the first theater
It was
to do
the
it?
second. Yeah, it was
Okay.
it was McMenamins was the first, and but then Alamo came, closely behind. And I think Alamo also elevated it. We started doing feasts, which were huge undertakings, but people really responded to them. We did, themed menus for different films. And I think once you've experienced it, you don't want to go back. Like now, if I'm going to a theater, I'm like, I need queso, I need a glass of wine. Like
Yes.
I can't go back.
I agree.
So it certainly makes a difference, but we are also trying to figure out how to make it accessible to people and not too expensive. It's tough.
Yeah, it is tough. Yeah, by the time you pay for movie tickets and you pay for food and trying to keep that in a realm that's achievable is tricky.
Yeah, it is. But you can't go back. I mean, if I walk into a theater and I'm like, wait, what? Where's my queso?
So as you think about what a lot of the concepts we explore in this podcast are things born in Austin that have gone elsewhere in the world, or things that have been elsewhere in the world that we've brought to Austin. So, Alamo is going elsewhere in the world. And what is it about the Alamo brand and its relationship to Austin that you think people outside Austin are resonating with?
I think some of it is, Tim and Carrie were here at a time where the Austin film scene was really starting to cook, and there were so many interesting emerging filmmakers, either that were already here or who moved here. And Tim and Carrie became very connected with that community. And I think that connection is still a very big part of the brand. I mean, Alamo at Alamo, and especially on the film team, we want to uh, reach out to and focus on filmmakers that we're excited about, like
Mhm.
young filmmakers who are doing something different, because we need, that next generation not only to be invested in going to the movies, but invested in creating film that resonates, right? And so I think that's been a part of the Alamo brand since the beginning, that sort of connection between, the art of filmmaking, the appreciation of cinema. And Austin, was really known for that, and still continues to be so. But I think the scene has changed. Uh it's not like the days of Slacker, right?
Sure.
It's a little more Hollywood now. So, but we still have a lot of exciting things happening here with film. And of course, having South by here and Austin Film Festival, there's still just a rich community that I think still feeds the brand of Alamo elsewhere.
Sure. So are there relationships among those organizations that you mentioned? So are there collaborations and things that sort of help to elevate all of the creative communities in Austin?
I think it's a little more limited nowadays. I mean, South by does utilize, our theater on South Lamar.
Mhm.
So that's kind of a big hub for South by. But Alamo's not involved in South by programming.
Hmm.
There was a period where I remember Alamo was doing like midnight screenings during South by, and that was programmed, I think, by Tim himself. But, things have kind of evolved. And then, we're still, I mean, I personally am a huge supporter of Austin Film Society.
Hmm.
I think what they do is awesome. And I love that we can coexist as different brands that still have a similar mission. Um, but I think because the company has grown so much, we are having to kind of spread the focus in these, especially in new markets where people don't know Alamo very well. And it's
Yeah.
it's on us to try to communicate, like, this is what we're about, and this is why we think, you'll love coming to an Alamo. But we've definitely discovered we're so well known in Austin, which is such a gift. But when we open in a new market, it's kind of hard
Yeah.
to get people to be like, what's different about you guys versus, these other theaters. So
Hmm.
it can be tough.
When you succeed at that, what is it that you find people really resonate with the most?
I think that I would like to think that people can tell that the curation of film and the programming is made by people who really are passionate about movies. I really hope that comes through because it's true. Everybody, every single member of the film team, whether it's, repertory or first run, we are so invested in movies. We love movies. We talk about movies all the time. We also have wildly different tastes, which I
Mm.
also think helps the brand and helps an audience, because you can go to our theater in Brooklyn, which is our top performing theater, and the auditorium for The Housemaid will
Mhm.
be packed, but then the auditorium for Terror Tuesday will be packed. And if you look at those audiences, there's not a lot of overlap.
Sure.
And it reminds me of in the early days when Colorado Street was still open and I was hosting Girly Night. It was every Tuesday. Girly Night was at 7, and then Terror Tuesday was at 10.
Huh?
And so the lobby of Colorado Street was the most hilarious mix of like, a lot of young women, very like, I don't know, like lots of like groups of girlfriends. And then they would be coming out of the into the lobby from the theater, and then there was all of these dudes in black t-shirts like waiting to go to Dare Tuesday. And it was such a contrast, and I was like, this is what I love about Alamo. Like,
Yeah.
it is a place for all kinds of movie lovers. We're not snobs. We just want to celebrate film. So I really do believe that that attracts, audiences in different cities that have never heard of us before, but just walk in, and maybe it's from the design of the theater or the old vintage posters we have up. Some of our theaters have video stores inside of them, which I
Oh,
think,
cool.
yeah, which hopefully signals to people like we are into this culture, like
Yeah.
we are fully behind this. So
So I want to learn more about your career as it relates to film? I know a lot of people are like, oh, I'd love to have a career in film. And what would that be like? And the idea that, oh, you can have a job where you get to watch movies. I'm going to guess it's probably not quite as glamorous as somebody from the outside might guess that it is. Give us a picture.
Sure. So it is both just as fun as you think it is, and also way more stressful than you can imagine it would be.
Oh.
So it's the fun side is, yes, we screen a lot of films before they come out, and even if it's not a movie that I'm personally excited about, I really do still appreciate the fact that, like, I have to go see a movie for work. It's like,
Mm.
oh, I have to go to the
Oh.
screening. Oh my god. So that's great. It's also fun when we get to brainstorm together as a team about, how can we make this movie even more special for our guests? What bells and whistles can we add that is going to draw them in to see this movie in the theater? And I think it's also just it's nice to be on a team of people who, like I was saying, are so passionate about what we do.
Mhm.
It's a really great team. I think the day to day is more is like a little more drudgery than people would probably picture. It's
Mhm.
definitely not glamorous. And Mondays in particular are rough days because they start early and end late, and the whole day we are fighting basically with studios in terms of what movies. We got to get a movie out, but they don't want it to go out. But we got to get this other movie in. So how do we negotiate? What do we do? It's that aspect I never even dreamed was a thing.
Mhm.
It's a big deal.
I imagine you'd spend a lot of time with numbers and spreadsheets and such of traffic counts and things.
Yes, yeah. So we're fortunate we have a really great analyst who, does box office predictions, looks at tracking for films. And as part of because we do a lot of advanced planning. It's not just that we're booking the theater the Monday
Sure.
of, like, for big movies, we're putting those on sale a month out. So
Mhm.
we've basically been planning to book the film for at least a few months. It's so the Mondays is kind of just what's low in the building that has to go because we're opening this new movie. But we look at, all the tracking, what kind of audience the movie's going to draw, where we think we have that audience. And
Mhm.
then basically, we also still have that franchise system. So some of our theaters, there's an extra layer of working with those teams to say, like, we think this film's going to work. What do you think? Do you have an audience for it? And yeah, so it's both a short term, like, Monday, like, let's figure this out, let's duke it out, and then Wednesday we have our planning meeting where we're talking about movies like that are coming out in like 4 or 5 months.
Yeah.
So it's looking ahead at the calendar, and again, talking to our studio pals about what they have coming and what they've been hearing in terms of their own tracking. So, yeah, it's a little more math than I thought I would have for a job, but again, I'm not our chief analyst, thank goodness, because I'm not a huge mathematician, so.
And so how did film become your career?
I really fell into it. I didn't study film in college. I've just always loved movies. My parents were pretty instrumental, and we'd go to the video store every Friday, and I'm an only child, so, like, the three of us would separate and then come back together, and we'd all have, like, two VHS and be like, okay, which one are we getting? And of course, I'm the daughter, so
You
I
get to
win.
win.
I win. My parents would just pretend, I guess. But so yeah, I mean, I grew up watching movies, and I don't know, just always enjoyed it, but didn't. I honestly didn't know that you could have a career in a movie theater. Like, that just never occurred to me. So I honestly wasn't even aware of it as an option until I moved here, and I started going to Alamo and just learning more about how they did events. And then when I met Henry and just hearing about his work, I was like, oh, okay, I'm into that, and I think I could do it.
Hmm.
And he was actually instrumental in helping me start at Alamo because he was over at my apartment one night and he was looking at my, like, DVD shelf, and he said, how many times have you seen these movies? And I was like, oh, I like hundreds. I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
And he was like, we don't show any of these. And I was like, well, you should. And so he talked to Tim, and that's kind of where Girly Night came from. And then I also started a series called Afternoon Tea, which was period films where you got tea and like little tea treats, and it was so delightful. But yeah, I just sort of slipped into it. And then over time, officially started working at Alamo. I initially worked at the Highball, which is, at the time, it was a bar that was a separate space from South Lamar
Mm.
in the same shopping center. Now they're connected. But
Mm.
back then, the Highball was a huge space. It had a bowling alley, a huge dance floor, and I coordinated all the events there. So it was film adjacent, but I was still doing Girly Night and Afternoon Tea, but I wasn't doing any other film work. And then when the shopping center closed for the renovation, they said, well, you can't, Highball's gone right now, so why don't you just start doing more work for the film team? And I said, I'm in. So that's, yeah. And so I started just doing repertory programming for all of the Alamos at the time. So just not just at, downtown, but all of the existing theaters, and then slowly kind of worked up to being the head of all of the repertory programmers. And then the pandemic happened, and I was, laid off like most people at Alamo.
Mhm.
And then when I had the opportunity to come back, they asked me to come back and handle the first run side of the business. So that's it.
Sometimes a good career can come even when you don't know it exists.
It's true. And I think back to when I was like graduating from college and wondering what I was going to do. And I mean, I could never have fathomed this. It just wasn't even on my radar. So I mean, yeah, you never know what you're going to discover, and what people in your life can introduce you to. So yeah, I'm really thankful.
So as you see the role that Alamo has had in Austin and in the evolution of the film industry in Austin, what do you think is different for Alamo having been here? What do you think its biggest impact has been?
I think it's, for me, I will always hope that it is a true community of people that are coming together to, enjoy something together. I think back to whether you're at Chair Tuesday or Girly Night, whether you're at the Housemaid or Avatar, you could look around the room and everybody is there because they're excited to see this film. They're excited to watch it together. And I just feel like there is a connection there that maybe some other circuits don't have. And part of that could be that, honestly, this sounds boring, but most of our buildings only have, our average is 8 screens.
Mm.
So you think about that versus an AMC that has 15, 20 screens. It's, it's like cavernous.
Mm-hmm.
But at Alamo, again, it's a smaller building. So you're just going to feel that crowd energy more. And it's also, the theaters are going to be more packed because just fewer screens.
Sure.
So to me, I hope it feels like you're entering a community when you walk into that auditorium. And, people know the cues, like the lights down and the don't talk PSA. And there's certain things that, and the pre-show, the pre-show is a huge part of what we do. And it's been around, since Alamo started. And it's still a group of people on the video team who are tireless at finding these incredible, weird, just wild clips, and creating these like amazing pre-shows that in and of themselves, like, I would pay to see, so I think we just have these, touchstones in that experience that hopefully people connect with.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope that's what makes us special. I think so.
Well, and it seems well suited to the moment in time that we're in, of where I feel like we used to think that people sought information and that they sought content and they had to go to a place to get it. And now it is at your fingertips in every format that you can have. And it feels to me like now what we're seeing is people are that the content is not only the thing, it is the content and community. Yeah, and
Exactly.
who you're experiencing it with. And it feels, I at least sense a degree of hunger around that.
I think so, because I think, sure, when we were all stuck at home during the pandemic, I mean, yes, you could Zoom with your friends, hopefully if you had a partner or family that you were living with, but it's so different when you can watch a movie with, 30, 50, 100 other people, especially, oh my gosh, especially a comedy or a horror film. I mean, just hearing the laughter or people like gasping and like being like, oh my God, like, uh, and that's actually the bummer for our staff screenings because we're a small team. And so there's so many movies that I see, like when I saw the new 28 Years Later, Bone Temple, which is awesome. And like, the 10 of us are like, ah, but like, imagine, I was like just picturing being in a theater with, 150 people all like losing their minds about what was happening. You don't get that at home,
Yeah.
and also just like walking out and hearing people talk. And I don't know, sometimes like I've talked to strangers after a movie because I'm like, I need to know, like, what did you think? Like, oh my gosh, can you believe this happened? So I think the community aspect is huge. And I think that's what's going to save us moving forward.
Yeah. Yeah. So a random question. You mentioned queso with your movie.
Yeah.
Is that in all your theaters everywhere, or is that just a Texas thing?
It's in all of our theaters.
Okay.
Which is funny because when our San Francisco theater opened in Mission, it's the new Mission Theater in the Mission. I was there opening weekend, and I was there with my husband's brother lives in San Francisco, and he grew up in Texas, and he was like, I heard there was going to be queso on the menu. And I said, there is. He said, is it good? And I was like, well, I mean, I think so. He was so excited because he was like, at that time, it was really hard to find queso anywhere.
Sure.
But yeah, we have it everywhere.
Okay. See,
Yeah, which is
exporting our culture just all over the country.
Yeah, it's true. And we have margaritas, which are less, Austin-y, but you gotta have a margarita too.
Queso and margarita, just it makes everybody's heart happier.
I agree.
So one thing I like to ask all my podcast guests as we bring this to a little bit of a close is our goal with this podcast is to understand what has made Austin the very cool place it has been, and that we can carry forward into its next chapter, knowing that it's not about ossifying old Austin and,
Sure.
trying to, stop all progress and, everything was cooler before I got here.
Yeah.
But it's also not about wiping the slate clean and deciding that we need something brand new. So as you think about that and you think about what with Austin that has existed in the past needs to carry forward into our future, what would you say that is?
I think I would say the sort of independent spirit of Austin, whether you want to call it like DIY or offbeat or choosing your own path, I think that's made Austin such a special place for a variety of artists and, whether it's music, film, and any kind of creative pursuit. But it's also just that vibe impacts everybody, no matter what kind of job you have. I think that spirit is still here in Austin. We're always been a little bit different here. Like the Keep Austin Weird slogan, like I could give or take, but I do think there's something to the idea that we are a little bit different. We want to do things our way. Maybe, whether it reflects the state in general or is completely contradictory to it, I think that makes Austin super unique. And I don't think that spirit is going away anytime soon because I do think it draws people here. They want to embrace that and they don't want to change. I don't think they want to change that about the city. So I hope that continues. But it's just a little bit different. And my dad calls it the Republic of Austin. He lives in Houston, so he loves saying that. But yeah, I hope that remains for Austin.
Well, if I can put in a plug for the tea thing that you were talking about. That
Yeah.
sounds so much fun. I would totally go watch the Downton Abbey movie and
Yes.
put on a fancy dress and drink tea in China. That sounds
Hopefully, yeah, hopefully we can bring it back. It really, yeah, it was a very, very special experience for a lot of folks. So hopefully one day soon.
well. Until then, we've got wine and queso.
Exactly.
Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it.
Thank you. This was wonderful. Thanks.